Hi, I'm Cathy Naiser, Realtor in San Antonio, and I wanted to do a video both for my clients and for just the general consumer, addressing the question, if the market's kind of challenging now, shouldn't we just wait to sell later? And I have lots of information. The question is, we're not sure what's going to happen, but based on what we do know, what would work best for you? So I've got some really, really good information here, and I think this is going to be a very valuable video for you to watch. So let me share my screen and I'm going to jump into it. First of all, interest rates are one of the big questions. And what happens with inventory, number of houses for sale, number of houses that are actually selling, and what the interest rates are. Those are all governed by a bunch of things. And what the government really cares about is GDP, gross domestic product, which means how much product people are buying in all industries. And they also care about unemployment. The government likes the GDP to be around 2.5. They like unemployment to be under 5%. So I'm going to give you some information about where we are, what the probability of a recession is, and what that looks like for the housing market, as well as some historical perspective. So let me share my screen and pull up my sheet and share it and make it maybe a little bit bigger. So there we go. This shows the gross domestic product. And you can see over the years, it's not showing, but over here is 23 and 23 and the prediction for 2024. So we are right around 2.5. This is during, this is after COVID, this is during COVID, but we're right around where the government wants us to be for GDP. That's all looking good right now. What couples with that, though, is unemployment, because if unemployment rises, people lose their jobs, they don't have the money to buy things, and that affects the GDP. So unemployment nationally, if you look at this, you can see how it's gone up and down. It was really high in 08 and 09. It was high in 2020 during the COVID years. Right now, we've been kind of stable for the year at 3.6. But I want to show you what's happening with unemployment monthly. Now, this is nationally, but if you notice, this is January of this year through July. We are up now above 4 and trending higher, 4.3. That was July. If you notice, it hasn't been since 21, it hasn't been above 4 much. We've been in, the government's liked it, but now it's starting to tick up. That worries the government. Again, if unemployment goes above 5, that makes it really hard for people to buy things because people don't have jobs, and that can catapult us into a recession. So when I say the market is hard, real estate is challenging right now. We've said for a while that the real estate industry is in a recession. The rest of the economy isn't so much. You need so many quarters of trending numbers to be a certain way before they call it a recession. But let me show you what they show as the recession. This is a recession probability chart going back from 1960 to 2024. So here we are here. We're at 75% almost probability. The only time we were higher for a recession probability was in the 1980s. If you look at it, even in the Great Recession, is what we call 2008, when the market crashed, our recession probability was not near as high as it is today. Now these gray marks are actually where there were recessions. And almost every place where it was high, there was actually a recession. So that kind of gives you an indication of where we are headed. Let's talk about the housing industry a little bit, and then we'll come back and say, okay, so what does this mean about where we are and what are the possibilities for the future? So this one is home sales monthly. There's two parts of this chart I want you to direct your attention to. Over here is what used to be called the seasonal income cycle in real estate. So if you look at real estate, January through May, it's going up, up, up. June, July, August is pretty high, and then it comes back down. That's what we know as a seasonal cycle. In fact, people used to say, well, wait for the spring. The spring is a selling cycle. So this is the home sales. Purple is last year, 2023. Blue is this year. And if you notice, there was no seasonal raise in June, July, and August. In fact, it went down on home sales, the number of homes that sold monthly. So this seasonal thing, if we think, well, the spring will be better, the spring hasn't been better for a while. I want to show you the same chart that we got at our national convention. And by the way, these charts are by Keller Research. Gary Keller and his research team are some of the most brilliant minds, and I love hearing twice a year their statistics and their take on things, and this is directly from them. So no seasonal spring cycle hasn't been there, wasn't there the purple last year, isn't there this year either. Now, this is the chart we got a year ago for 22 and 23. So 22 was purple going down. There's no up in the summer. 23, it was going down. And if you go back to this chart, 23 now is a purple. It went down. There was no cycle. There was no seasonal cycle. So if anybody's saying, should we wait till the spring till it gets better? That's a myth. For the last few years, it has not gotten better in the spring. So, hard to say, but that's the truth. Now, this is an interesting chart because it talks about months of inventory. How many houses on the market currently, and how many months would it take to sell the homes that are on the market if no new houses come in? That's what month of inventory is. So if we're looking at the blue charts, that's this year. You can see that the inventory has gone up, the number of houses for sale. Good for buyers, they have more to choose from. For sellers, not so good because the competition is getting harder. There are more competing against you. So when you add, still not a gigantic amount, you know, back in 2008, that was like a 9 or 10 month inventory. So a 4-month inventory is not bad. It's not bad at all, but it's more than it was last year. And again, for buyers, that's not so bad. For sellers, not so bad either, except that it's probably going to get bigger. And that means you have more competition for the buyers that are willing to pay interest rates, whatever have you, their costs. And so a limited number of buyers buying more months of inventory. So this is the monthly inventory in 22 and 23. Now purple was 23 here. Do you see how it went up and down? Months of inventory went down to 2.9. And then the blue was 23. So I'm sorry, purple was 22. Blue, it started here and then it went down. 2023 is the blue. If you look up here, 2023 is purple. And you can see it went up a little, but not a lot. This year, it went up significantly more. So if we look at whether or not there's going to be a recession and how that's going to affect the housing market, it's all going to depend on unemployment and GDP and the banking industry. And so there are 3 possible scenarios that Keller Research came up with and what that's going to do to the market. And this is again to answer further the question, should we sell now or should we wait? So I'm going to go back to my slides and go through each of these scenarios. So scenario number 1, no recession. If unemployment stays below 5, and again, it's trending up, then interest rates will be about 6%. Home sales are going to be about where they are. Right now, we're at 4.1. They'll be about 4.5. So I'm going to just read this. The scenario will be defined by a resilient labor market. There's plenty of people working, which allows rates to be increased before a recession sets in. So interest rates aren't going to drop drastically. In fact, they may recede some. They may raise some. Decline in rates will result in more home sales, but the recovery will be slow in housing as rates take time to come down. So, yes, rates could come down slowly. So, if there's no recession, there's actually a slow recovery out of where we are. Scenario number 2, a normal recession. Unemployment goes up to 6.8. Interest rates are going to drop more, between 5 and 6. If unemployment goes up, that's the way the government will stimulate buying when fewer people are buying because unemployment is there. Home sales will increase. So if there's a normal recession, it's likely that home sales will increase. Historically, falling home sales lead us into recessions, and that's what we've had, falling home sales, and rising home sales lead us out. So after 3 years of decline, like we've had, the transition into a recession would trigger more aggressive rate drops to stop that and stimulate the housing market to drive growth so that the economy can recover. Kind of interesting how that happens. So normal recession, going into a recession, more people losing their jobs causes interest rates to fall, which actually would have more housing sell and drive the economy out of the drive the economic recovery. So that scenario, buyers and sellers, is actually pretty good. More home sales, lower interest rate. That's if there's a normal recession. If there's no recession, we're going to stay about where we are. This is a prediction and based on research. We don't have a crystal ball, of course. Now let's talk about if there's a banking recession. So what is a banking recession? That's when the banks go into a horrible situation. That happened in 2008. If you remember, all the foreclosures, business shut down, banks were closing right and left. If y'all remember that, this bank went down, then that bank went down. The time it happened before that was in the savings and loan crisis because all of the savings and loan companies crashed. So a banking industry problem can create a problem in terms of recession. Right now, in terms of our regular mortgage banking, things are good. They've tightened standards, things are good. But where they aren't good is in commercial loans. So what some of you may or may not know is that commercial loans after 5 years have to be re-triggered, re-signed up for. And if the commercial company can't do that, and many of them, because they have higher interest rates now, they will default on those loans. Businesses will shut down. People will lose jobs. So and banks would be in a world of hurt if the commercial industry has problems, which it could, because a lot of commercial loans are resetting. They're having their 5-year reset now. So it is totally possible to have something happen in the banking industry driven by commercial loans. So if you look at our chart again, this is if a banking recession, unemployment would go up. If there's a banking recession, especially because of commercial loan issues, companies shut down, people lose jobs, unemployment goes up. Interest rates in that scenario are going to drop drastically. They're going to do whatever they can to turn it around. But home sales will not increase, really. In fact, home sales and prices could go down. So in this scenario, something damages the banking industry, creating a shock to lending. Home prices and home sales will fall despite low mortgage rates. Home prices and home sales will fall. That's what happened in what we call the Great Recession of 2008, and it's what happened in the savings and loan crisis. I think that was in the 1990s. So there are really three, I think that's all my slides. There are three possible scenarios for the future that, based on research, it looks like it's happening or could happen. One, driven by unemployment and the rising unemployment numbers. So we already did have an interest rate drop that surprisingly has not stimulated a ton of new sales yet, okay? So We have yet to see where this will end up. If we have no recession, not a lot changes for buyers and sellers from this perspective. Unemployment's going to stay low. Government's not going to want to do anything to shift that. Home sales are going to stay about where they are, prices. And the recovery out of what we're in is slower if there's no recession. If there is a normal recession, home sales will go up, interest rates will go down, unemployment comes up. So actually, if there is a normal recession, real estate sales will actually help the economy come out. Again, that's not an overnight process. The third scenario possible is there's a banking recession. And again, that's possible because of the fragile state of the commercial industry right now and commercial loans. So we have no crystal ball. Two of these three look not so well. Let me put it this way. One looks really positive for home sales. The other two, not so much. So the question is, do we sell now or do we wait? My question is, when are you going to wait to? And why are you going to wait? Nothing's going to change overnight. And out of the three possible scenarios, one of them is worth waiting for. But the problem is we don't know which of the three will happen. And we know that even though the market is a little challenging right now, it's still there. And houses still are selling. You have to be priced competitively because buyers are being very picky. And you're going to have to probably help some with buyer's costs. So I hope this helps and answers your questions. The market, again, there is no spring market, nothing to wait for there. There hasn't been a spring market for years. Any realtor who really knows what they're doing can tell you that. And we may or may not have a recession. That's going to be all dependent on unemployment and if it continues to rise. Certainly if something happens in the commercial world, unemployment will rise for sure. And it may just rise in normal ways, and there are consequences there. So in my mind, what we know now is better than what we don't know, because two of those scenarios didn't look so good for real estate. Either way, it doesn't matter what happens in any economy. People buy and sell homes. We just get creative about how to do it. In 2008, 9, and 10, I helped a lot of people buy homes and sell homes and survive well through that. So if there is a reason you need to sell or buy, this is as good a time as ever. And so call me, because I'd be happy to help with either one of those. And I look forward to talking to you soon. Have a good day.